Dyslexia, how I define it, is actually about time and place. So in the society that we are right now, and that is changing in that kind of Victorian, industrialized educational system where school, or was and is, a kind of fuel to producing people who go and work in organizations, the English writing or text becomes that kind of important tool of who's smart and who's not.
Wow.
Because they need you to be able to do a work. You know, the funny thing is right now, is this is the best time to have a dyslexic child. I thank God I have a dyslexic child. Why do I thank God I have a dyslexic child? We're living in an AI revolution. So before literacy and being able to read and write in a certain way, was seen as, you know, you are smart. Look, you've been able to pass the exam. But in the era we are now just entering where AI is there, the ability now, those skill sets which were real good, you're going to find out that maybe in about 50 years, people like my daughter will not be called dyslexic. The reason that mental health comes into dyslexia is because we are denying our children the ability to be themselves.
Hello, welcome back to Echoes of Our Community. This is a podcast series that looks at real issues, listening to real people with real stories, with the bid and the aim to impact lives through the different areas that we might face, from the littlest to the biggest. So I want to welcome you back today. And we're looking at a part 2 series of looking at dyslexia and our young people. We've had Amara on the previous podcast, but today I'm so excited to bring her back with her mom, Agnes. So you're welcome.
Hello, hi.
And welcome back, Amara. Hi, you're welcome back. So we're going to hear about from Agnes. Are you going to tell us a bit about yourself? But I just want the viewers to know that dyslexia is just one of the conditions of mental health or learning difficulties that young people face. But the challenges especially within our Black community and marginalized, is that we don't recognize it or identify it early enough. And this has caused a lot of issues or challenges for our children growing up. And we heard from Amara during the last series of the podcast that, because her mom was able to get her to do her diagnosis early, it's actually helped her, and she's on a journey now. But not everybody's on that journey, and that is what we want to talk about a bit more today. So I want to hear from Agnes. Do you want to tell us about yourself first, Agnes, and then we can.
So a little bit about myself. So first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. I've been wanting to come on. So even though it was through my daughter, I'm still here. So yes. I'm very, very grateful.
You're welcome.
So I'm the founder and CEO of an organisation called Global Child and Maternal Health.
Yeah.
We were previously called Global Black Maternal Health, and we produced the Black Child Send report, which was actually based on the lived experience of me being a mum and having 2 out of 3 of my children being neurodivergent, navigating that system and then seeing so many different I'll say similarities and differences and wanting to capture that data. And we did that through the Black Child Send report. Fantastic.
And like I said before, Amara made a very good case of how you've been very proactive in being her advocate. Do you want us, I'd like you to talk us through that story for you as a parent, because I think it's important that parents hear that.
Yeah.
And because she spoke for as a child, but as a parent, how was that for you?
Yeah. So to be honest, I mean, I've heard the term dyslexia. I've had a lot of friends who have said they're dyslexic as I was growing up. I didn't really have any meaningful lived experience of dyslexia. Amara is my firstborn child. So, I'd be reading her school books with her when she's in reception in year 1. And I noticed that she would kind of muddle up the word, but Amara is full of energy. So I thought that she, maybe she's not concentrating, or she's just been boisterous. And she, at these times, she's very young, 5, 6, 7 years old, right? But it wasn't sticky. So she'd read, and sometimes she would do really well. She'd read the words, and then the next time we'd go back to read that book, and it's like she hasn't read it before. And so I was noticing those things, but again, I wasn't sure what that meant. I didn't really have the infrastructure in my head to really be able to say, okay, this is dyslexia, or this is something else, or this is my child maybe just wanting to play, right? And I'm there making her read, right? And actually, to be fair, it was one teacher in year 1 that turned around and said to me, you know what, it was at parents' evening, I think your daughter she's got the profile of somebody who's dyslexic. But however, in the UK, we don't do dyslexia screening until year 3. But I think it's really important that you're aware of that, so that when you're reading with her, or when you're kind of participating in any activities, you've got that in your mind. And so therefore, when you go into year 3, you kind of, you have that at the forefront of your mind. What happened? There was COVID happening as well. So there were so many things that was going on. But in my mind now, because this teacher had kind of mirrored back that language to me, I had this thing of, okay, so it's not my daughter just being playful, right? It's dyslexia. Now, I know in your introduction, you spoke about dyslexia being one of the mental health conditions. How I looked at it though, for me, I'm a mother of 3. All my children are gifted. From the moment I pushed them out, I said, this child will go on to do great things. Right? Even before I pushed them out, even when my children were in my womb. So I never saw a term of dyslexia or we have autism. I never saw these as a barrier I could be scared of. Yeah. Right? What I saw is as a parent, my job is to be a guardian of my child. Yeah. So whether it's through neurodiversity, whether it's challenges they will face later on in life or so forth, that is my job. And so when that teacher was able to mirror back and put that seed in my head that my child may be dyslexic, then I saw it as my responsibility as her guardian to now start researching and understanding where I could. Bearing in mind, I had two very small children who were probably like 1 and 2 at the time, and then 2 and 3. So it wasn't like something that I just went full throttle in, but it was like little bits here and there trying to put this stuff together. And I'll say the biggest change for me, I'm, I say the Ghanaian in me, so I'm stereotyping, but when she was in about year 3 or year 4, I had this idea that she was, let me rephrase this. We all know our children are going to go to secondary school. And so for me, when I saw open days in secondary schools, I would want to go and visit them, whether that's private, whether that's boarding, whether that's state, because I always had this idea of I wouldn't know what I wanted to do with my daughter unless I have kind of examples to compare and contrast, because yes, I'm born and raised in the UK, but I haven't been to secondary school for however, I won't do my age, only 1 decade ago. For those that are asking.
Oh, yeah.
But I haven't been to school. And this was, I would say, the light bulb moment for me. Yeah. So my daughter had gone through now year 3, had her dyslexia screening. Nobody had come back and said much to me, or just like, yeah, she may have dyslexia and we'll give her the yellow sheet or red sheet that they put over the work. And that's what they said. Now, I had visited a school. It was a private school, a boarding school. And I hadn't really known whether or not she was going to go there or not at all because, I'm from South London. These schools are very expensive, but I just wanted to see what's out there. And I remember talking to one of the teachers and they loved her. They were hearing about all the acting she was doing and many different things. And I said, and maybe I was thinking out loud and I was like, this school's really good. My daughter loves it. But, I don't think that she would be able to pass the exams because she's dyslexic. Yeah. So they looked at me like, what are you talking about? And they must have said something like, in our school and lots of private schools, something like 1/3 of the students have some sort of neurodivergent.
Wow.
All you need to do is ensure you've got the correct paperwork. Do you have an educational psychologist assessment? Do you have this? I had never heard that is what you needed because in the school my daughter was attending, I thought the dyslexia screening that they have in year 3 was the kind of paperwork that you then go and take into secondary school.
Yeah.
So then I've run back to my school and they're like, oh no, the dyslexia screening is just a screening. It's not an official piece of paper.
Oh my days.
It's not a documentation.
See learning. Wow.
But seeing the contrast between, this school, this private school and the state school that I go to, which again, I went to state school all throughout my life. So I'm not seeing this as a state versus private, but understanding that schools that are properly resourced versus those that are not, this is an equity issue. Because why do I not know that the dyslexia screening in year 3 is not really worth the paper that it's signed on if you're trying to use that for things like exam entries and
yes.
So then the big shocker to me when I now started to go and say, okay, well, where can I get this educational psychologist report from? They cost around £1,000 for a 2-hour assessment for your child.
Wow.
Right. So my daughter at this time was only 9 years old. I went and I tried and I looked around and so forth, and eventually I found somebody, and she had that piece of paper, and I'll say that piece of paper has changed her life.
Wow.
Because what it did is a dyslexia screening test that you get in year 3 basically says that your child has a profile of dyslexia. So it's not a diagnosis.
Can I just take you back a bit? Because I said this to Amara before. We hear the word dyslexia a lot, but I've realized now that we have a lot of terms that our families, especially if they're just coming to the country, they know that children might be struggling with reading or writing, but they don't know what that word means. Could you just take us through that?
I'll go into that. And this is not the Oxford English definition, right? Yeah. But dyslexia is just basically, I don't want to use a long word because it would be like a phonological processing. That's the kind of words that they would use. But really, it's your child's difficulty in processing the kind of text or the letters that are in a book. And sometimes for some people it's text, for some it's numbers. Yeah? And so from, if you're not informed, which a lot of us are not, we will then internalize that. And a lot of families do, particularly families from an auto background, has been that our child is not smart, our child is not concentrated.
And they even
beating them.
I even have a situation recently, the child's like, this child doesn't want to read. They
want to read.
They give them books to read at home. The teachers will tell her, read with your child. That's why your child, if you read with her. But she said she's tried. And
right, so these are a few things I want to add. Number one, in the UK, so in Britain, literacy is a very modern phenomenon. Like 100 years ago, a very small percentage of the UK could read. Yeah. So when we're even talking about literacy, secondly, I always say this to my daughter. If my daughter and all the other dyslexic people out there were living in the ages of the Egyptians, actually they would be seen as the most literate ones because it's hieroglyphics and drawing
and art and music and storytelling.
And that was their scribing. So dyslexia, how I define it, is actually about time and place. So in the society that we are right now, and that is changing, and I'll go into how AI is changing that, right? But in the society we're in right now, in the kind of in that kind of Victorian, industrialized educational system where school was or was and is a kind of fuel to producing people who go and work in organizations, then the English writing or text becomes that kind of important tool of who's smart and who's not, because they need you to be able to do a work.
So if you're coming with that definition, Agnes, does that mean that we are, maybe I'm wrong, but you can correct me, are we placing so much or too much emphasis on it?
We are placing too much emphasis on it. You know, the funny thing is right now, this is the best time to have a dyslexic child. I thank God I have a dyslexic child. Why do I thank God I have a dyslexic child? Number one, we're living in an AI revolution. Right. Whereas before, my family heritage is Ghanaian. I know quite a bit about Ghanaian schools. And a lot of that is around kind of being able to take those textbooks, memorize, and be able to regurgitate them back in the exam.
Yeah.
You have AI for that now. That is no longer a skill that is needed. So before, literacy and being able to read and write in a certain way was seen as, you are smart. Look, you've been able to pass the exam. You might not have any critical thinking, any understanding, any ability to apply what's in that book, but you were able to regurgitate it, right, in the exam, and you are now a star. But in the era we are now just entering, where AI is there, where I use tools like Speechify myself, where if there's a paper, so I do a PhD. So if there's a paper I need to use, I just upload it into Speechify and I listen to it as a podcast. When I'm in my lectures, I use Notes AI, like another maybe AI tool, which helps me to basically record like notes and minutes and so forth. And then I can use that. So the ability now, those skill sets which were real good, you're going to find out that maybe in about 50 years, people like my daughter will not be called dyslexic.
Wow.
It will be the people who cannot process. They're going to be new
or thinking
tools,
critically.
Or thinking critically and so forth, because those skills that we've played such an emphasis on. The reason that mental health comes into dyslexia is because we are denying our children the ability to be themselves.
Wow.
Dyslexia is not, in my opinion, as a mother, and I'm not going to talk about it from my professional hat, but just as a mother, dyslexia is not a mental health issue. What is a mental health issue is when my daughter is not supported to be able to show exactly how smart she is in her school environment. That is what then causes, because imagine in your head, people are talking about things and you know you are smart, you are great, you are brilliant, but the tools they are giving you are not able
They're
to
denying you
I
that.
know I am brilliant, but if you tell me to go and swim, or I'm drowning, I'm at the bottom of the water. Yeah. So if that is the way that you're testing me, yeah, I'm finished.
This is so interesting.
And so that is what it is. So again, dyslexia, yes. I'm not. This is me. This is me not saying it does not exist. It exists, and my child is a proof of that.
I'm going to go back to Amara now because I want to hear your voice. So how do you feel about mom being that? Do you think that has helped you along on this journey because of the way she's pushed herself or the knowledge she's gained? How has that impacted on you, really?
I would have struggled way more without someone to support me, because people that don't have enough support, they fall behind usually. And when they fall behind, it's really hard for them to catch up. And without someone to push you forward or to help you, like say I don't have my paperwork and my mom's trying to do it and I don't have any paperwork because we can't afford that £1,000, I would still be generally smart. I wouldn't be as smart, but to like go forward, I wouldn't be in private school. To like, I'd be behind in certain classes. I wouldn't be as good as English as I am now. I wouldn't be good at history. I wouldn't like understand more things. It would affect my other subjects because English is the base level as everything else. So without it, I'd fall behind in everything else as well.
Wow.
Because I'd need to be able to read the text, do the homework. But as my mom said, because of AI, probably more people now, because it's hard for them to do it because they don't have any help, they just do AI for everything. And then they're getting like top grades for all the work, the assignments they're handing in now. But then when it comes to the actual exams, they're falling behind. But usually the way some schools do it, the work that you hand in plus the test papers, they give you your average. So then they get put into a good class, not the highest, not the lowest, when really it's like they don't have any help. They're actually falling behind. They're suffering, but it's usually just the internet now helping.
Wow. So I'm going to put you on the spot. So now I don't know whether you've told mom because you've said it to me. But what do you want to tell mom about? Thank you, mom. What do you have to tell her?
Thank you, Mom.
Do you really mean that? Because, like you said, and unfortunately, we don't have a lot of moms. I was thinking whether you'd like to say something to moms. English might be their second language. Maybe they might even have gone to school, but because of the way we've grown up in that colonial
thing. But also, I don't. This is not a blame you gave. I don't want to look like, oh, this is what I did, and I didn't know. Yeah. I think there's a few things. Number one, especially if you're a migrant in this country, oftentimes you're just grateful to be able to have an education system that you're not paying for and your children can go. Yeah. And one of the things I implore to all parents is we are now in Rome. Yeah. So yes, what may glitter is not always gold. Yeah?
True talk.
So you now have to really understand the system here.
I've got to say that again. Not all that glitters will be gold. So this is talking to parents like us now, because once we come from another country, it's like, everything is good here.
Yeah, there's light.
There's light. There's water. There's food. But there's other things that
there's other things, and we see it. We see it in children now that are going to jail and all the different things that are happening, and parents are bewildered because they're thinking, "Where I've come from, there wasn't even light. There wasn't even water. You've got light. You've got water. You've got school. How did this happen?" Right? And so it's really about, first of all, and trying to understand the system that you are in. Yeah. It looks, if you compare it to the baseline of where you've come from, you will never understand it. You need to understand it based on where you're at.
And that's the key. Understand it. And even if that means getting support to understand it.
Yes.
Because it's about getting that understand. But we need parents to be real, to want to say, I don't understand. Let's not pretend that we understand.
And also to know, like, if you know your child, one of the big things I would say, again, when we talk about dyslexia, is if you have a child who, when you speak to them, they're always confident and they are quite boisterous and energetic, but it doesn't translate to their reading, this is a sign.
Yes.
This is a sign. Because often it's those children that end up, as you said, getting the beatings, they're getting screamed at and so forth, because how they present themselves is not translated into their academic work. And the parents and the school then put it down to the fact that, hold on a minute, you're the problem. When oftentimes, actually, that should tell you, if they are confident and they're talking back and they're doing all the normal stuff that young people are doing. And then when it comes to their actual reading, they're struggling. What is going on there? And it doesn't necessarily mean it might be dyslexia. There could be a host of other
lot of things, yeah.
The way that they're processing information.
Yes.
Some children are more visual.
Yes,
some children need to hear. Some children need to... So trying to understand, how does my child learn? Right? Then once you know how your child learns and receives information, then you can work that way. My daughter's dyslexic. Do you think I don't give her books? I always tell her, okay, if it takes your friends an hour to read a book, you have to allocate 2 hours.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. I'm not going to say to her, okay, now you're dyslexic, you're not going to do any of that. It's about saying, this is what, it's like me, if I know I walk and it's going to take me an extra 5 minutes to get to the bus stop before work or whatever it is, I must allocate those extra 5 minutes. But if I never understood that this is how she processes information, how would I be able to support her?
And I think that is key. And talking on support, on the final notes, I know that I'm so excited about her being a champion and an ambassador for dyslexia. Is it where in Ghana or for Africa? In Africa.
Because of the work that Amara's been doing and actually demonstrating what dyslexia actually looks like, because she's thriving, she's participating in so many different activities, academically in all different areas. She became the youngest ambassador for the Africa Dyslexic Organization.
Wow.
And what that means is really kind of spotlighting to African parents that, look, here is a child who is doing academically very well, also in terms of extracurricular activities, doing very well. And she has dyslexia. But the only difference here is that she has a family who's advocating her from the very beginning. So I'm really proud of her.
I'm so excited to hear that. So now that's going to Africa. So is there any hope for the future of her doing something similar here? A conference here that we can bring African parents to when we do things like we're planning to do something with My Child and Me.
Yes.
So will she be able to get
She'll
involved?
definitely be able to participate. And then obviously in addition, I spoke about our Black Child send work. So first of all, we also have a community over on our platform. That's at www.globalcmh.org. But also we're in the very early stages of creating a send equity program and a conference to match in October. I don't want to talk too much, but there's going to be lots of places between myself, between Parents, Skills to Go, and a lot of other organizations that are coming out there to create this infrastructure. Because
watch this space.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. So I'm so excited about the work we're doing together, and it's also about that intergenerational aspect as well. So us and the young it's a lot we're doing, and it's about being adaptable, learning, unlearning and changing. And that's the road we're on right now. So I want to say thank you, Agnes, super mom, and thank you, Amara, for joining me today. It's so exciting. This is her first podcast as a 12-year-old, and I'm excited that I got her here today. So I'm looking forward to much more. So thank you. This is Echoes of Our Community. Watch this space and join us, subscribe, share, and let other people know we're changing the world. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Yeah.